Move aside, move aside. Sorry, Kamna. Sorry, whether there was a
No problem.
technical glitch. So
No problem.
there was a question by Sukoon, and she was asking, is there something good for, I mean, dairy products? Are they really good for you?
It depends. Again, that is something that needs a lot of looking into, because the quality of dairy that we get these days is highly questionable. So we need to be sure that you're getting the right kind of products. Having said that, dairy is not bad for all, but yes, dairy may not be advisable for a whole lot of people, especially if you have lactose intolerance or
Yeah.
certain gastric issues or inflammation or hormonal imbalances. So it really depends, whether you need to take it or not. But one overall, if you are consuming dairy, then ensure that your source is good, and reduce the intake of milk. Although dahi is good, it's a probiotic, and even paneer is okay, especially if you're vegetarian, it's a good source for protein. But
Yeah.
in case you have inflammation, congestion, or you have hormone imbalances, things like that, then it's not meant for you.
Yeah, because I've noticed, like, I've done a bit of a study, and there have been a lot of people who have been recommended to go off dairy completely, and they kind of
Yeah,
really realized, that it's really helped them a lot. So I just wanted to
yes,
understand the science about it, because I personally also don't consume dairy except in form of paneer, because for a vegetarian that's like a luxury dish. So
correct.
so your recommend is mostly if you're a lacto intolerant person, then you should avoid dairy completely, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you should. If you're lactose intolerant, you need to avoid. If you have a lot of, gastric issues like IBS or a lot of bloating, then maybe you should try eliminating dairy and see how that works for you. If you have hormone imbalances, again, it's something that it may not go well with you. And third, if you have a lot of inflammation, again, it's something that you can look to skip and replace it with something else. Yeah. And
Okay.
even if you don't have any of these problems, be sure of the source of your dairy that you're getting from. Because there's so much of adulteration that happens, you need to
Yeah.
be ensuring that you're getting good quality.
Okay. So basically, a lot of people are, buying from Sarda farms, and is there someone? I mean, do you need to do that full analysis, before buying your milk product?
You
They
need
talk
to
about
be thorough.
the casein in the milk, which is not good. Then there is theory about if milk is good for the calf, and it's got these tremendous growth hormones, and that
Yeah.
growth hormones are not suitable for your body. So for a child can digest this what do you call this protein till up to the age of 8 or 9, and after that they say they should also go off dairy. So what is your take on that?
Well, I don't think so completely. I think dairy is okay. As far as your, cows are not injected, they are grass fed, and they are good quality. We all talk about the hemp cow, the one with the hump. So those are better ones. There is another story about, A plus milk. So A plus is
Yeah.
basically an enzyme that they test in the milk, the kind of milk in a certain breed of cows, and that they have found to be far easier to digest and lighter for a whole lot of people. So people who can't tolerate and feel the regular milk to be heavy, then they are, better suited to consume A plus milk. But same take, you got to be sure that you don't have any of these issues and your source is good, and then you're okay. Yeah.
Okay. So there is another question by you get antibiotic-free meat. Is it a fad, or is it something you recommend? Because I definitely find a difference in the regular, and when I used to have non-veg, difference in the meat that you have, and steroid-free, antibiotic-free meat that they are selling. There's definitely difference even in the texture of the meat. So,
Yeah.
what do you suggest on this?
Yes, definitely better, because lot of your poultry is injected, is hormone grown, and even ideally your country chicken, which a whole lot of us don't take these days
Yeah.
because it's harder to cook and harder to chew, is actually better than your packaged meat that you get. But
Yeah.
even then, you need to be again sure that even the country chicken that you're getting is, the chickens are farm fed and they're not injected. But yes, you will feel a difference in the way it gets digested and what it does to you when you eat a better quality food any day.
Okay. One of the viewers is asking that is rice kanji good as a probiotic? I mean, you put in
Yes,
cooked rice in water and then you have it the next
yes,
day.
overnight. Yes. So you take just about a few tablespoons of rice, and even better if you put it in a matka or an earthen pot, and you just cover it with little amount of water and leave it overnight on your kitchen top, and then consume it next day first thing in the morning. It's a very healthy alkaline probiotic, good for your gut. It's a very gut friendly thing.
Oh,
Yes.
that's good to know. That's good to know. Now, some of the gentlemen who I think young in age are asking, is there a diet for a six-pack abs?
Okay. Um,
The
diet.
shortcut. Yeah.
So one, there is no shortcut. Two, diet is not the only thing you will need. With the diet, of course, you need a diet which is quite rich in protein. You can't be eating at 11 p.m. at night and expect to have a six-pack app. It's not happening. If you can't be consuming alcohol and expect a six-pack back again. It's not happening. So you need to ensure that it's high on protein. You're having, all the nutrients that are essential. You're doing a good workout. You're getting your sleep. Because if you're doing the best of the diet and you're not sleeping and getting the recovery, and the muscle building phase in, it's not going to work. But in terms of the diet, it has to be rich in protein. It has to be rich in a lot of micronutrients like your magnesium, zinc, manganese, yeah, and vitamin D, of course, and medium on carb, and get in the good fats. You need the good fats if you want to burn your fat as well. So all these are essentials if you're looking for six-pack abs. Of course, along with a good workout, sleep, water, no alcohol, smoking, no white sugar, and all of that.
So there's no shortcut basically. It's hard work.
None. Yeah.
So when you mention about workout, what is a good pre-workout and a post-workout kind of diet that one should look for?
A pre-workout food should be about 80% carbs and 20% protein, and post-workout should be the reverse, should have about 80% protein and just about 20% carb. My favorite food for a pre-workout are bananas. They are so easy to digest, easily available. They have good amount of potassium in it, so you need it for the proper electrolyte balance, and they're light on the stomach. They give you instant energy. So bananas with maybe a little bit of roasted chana, superb. That's your best workout food, especially if you're doing it in the evening or the morning. Otherwise, if you're doing it maybe after 2 hours after your meal or after your lunch is a good enough of a pre-workout meal. You don't need to have something more before your workout. And post-workout should be a protein-dense meal. You could consider, depending upon always after taking advice, a protein supplement, whether it's a whey supplement or it's a plant-based protein. If whey doesn't go well with you, it could be eggs, it could be protein, it could be something like sattu, which is basically,
Yeah,
besan and water. Yeah.
yeah,
It could be roasted chana and cheese. So any of
depends.
that as far as it's getting you the amount of protein you need. Yeah, or it could be lean chicken if you're having, working out at 6 or 7 and having your dinner post that. So you have chicken with, vegetables and whatever combination is meant for you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Uh, there is another interesting trend, or I will not say trend, but something which has been passed down from ages, and and it's been there in our books about fasting. A lot of people, there have been sciences about fasting for healing, fasting for curing chronic illnesses and diseases. I think that there are a lot of these current dietitians out there, and who are recommending people to go on intermittent fasting. That is a new buzzword. So is there something that really actually works? Is there a way to do it? Is there a method or science behind this? Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. See, as you rightly said, intermittent fasting is the current is the buzzword. but it's not something new. It's been here with us for ages and ever and ever. If you really go to see, our body is synced with the sun and the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always say you wake up at sunrise and you sleep at sunset. And thereby, by default, our ancestors or many, many years ago, the trend used to be you eat before it gets dark and at sunset. And then you start eating the next day morning. That's actually what we need to do, but we don't do it, right? Now, by default, on an average, if you are still a person who likes to finish your meal, say by 8 p.m., yeah, and then you next day you wake up and on an average you have your tea around 8 or 9. By default, you're fasting for 12 hours.
Yeah. So it should
It's
be
all,
12 hours because they talk about 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. And a very
yeah,
important part is to break the fast. So, I
yeah.
mean, I generally believe that it should be only liquid. There should not be even green tea or anything. It should just be water. But a lot of people
Uh,
even have black coffee.
yes.
So,
So, the minimum amount, if you're looking at intermittent fasting, the minimum hours that you should be looking at giving your body is 12. Yeah. The maximum can go to as many. But for women, generally, I don't recommend, 15 and more because the 16 hours, 17 hours, 18 hours can really drain them out, and it's not also good for hormonal imbalance in the long run. So they need to really be wary about that. In terms of what you need to consume in the fasting hours, if you're doing a dry fast, then nothing. If you otherwise liquids which are 0 calorie, like water, green tea, herbal teas, lemon water, a little bit of water with a pinch of salt, black coffee, black tea are actually okay. But if you're having that in the morning, you need to make sure that you're having something that neutralizes your body before putting in something as acidic as green tea or black coffee, black tea into your system. So if you're starting your day, you have it maybe a lemon water, apple cider vinegar, turmeric and haldi water, and then have your black coffee or black tea if required. But it's
okay.
okay. They're 0 cal. Technically, they don't break your fast.
So there's a very important point you made for women in terms of intermittent fasting and hormonal issues. So you think that plays an important role between thyroid and intermittent fasting? Because I've seen a study which says that the thyroid could go a bit haywire with the intermittent fasting period duration.
Yes, that is why I don't recommend ladies to go beyond 14 or 15 hours. For them, it's recommended that they stick to between a 12 max 15-hour window because beyond that, it does, there are sufficient studies to prove that it does cause a few things going haywire for them. And even for, and plus, 16/8 is the most common thing, and that's what people know about. But that's not the only way to do an intermittent fasting. Even a trend wherein you do 2 days of 14 hours and 2 days of say 12 hours, as far as you're maintaining consistent cycle, it's okay. Or 2 days of not fasting at all and doing it for 7 days is also okay. Or 4 days of doing something a really short window and lesser calories and other days of more. As far as you're setting a pattern and your body is getting accustomed to that and is
Yeah.
responding, is
Yeah.
okay. It's something that you need to look what works for you. Don't do it because it's worked for somebody else. Your body always gives you the signs and signals whether this is okay or not okay.
Not okay. So there is
So
a
you need
question.
to,
There is a
yeah.
question which they said to break your fast. Is coconut water okay, or is there some, or what you should ideally break it with? Can you give us some options?
See, it also depends what time you're breaking your fast. So, say if you're breaking your fast at 9 o'clock, have a good breakfast because what happens is if you're not having a good protein-packed breakfast, you're giving the body just a little bit of calories, and the body is kind of confused and is wondering, and that kind of slows down the metabolism even further. The body has undergone a fast for 14 hours. So it's become like a sponge which is dry, ready to absorb everything that you give in. So you need to give it good protein, carbs, and it will absorb and it will utilize it well. But whereas if you give it something that's full of sugar, it's not the right thing to do.
Going to spike
But
up.
if you break,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if you're going to be breaking your fast at 9 or 10, start with a good breakfast, let the coconut water follow 2 hours later. If you're doing it somewhere around 11ish, which is neither your lunch time, neither your breakfast time, then have something like a smoothie, which will give you the nutrients, and you follow it up with a proper meal. So it also depends upon what time you're breaking your fast. Otherwise, nuts and a little amount of cheese and fat, which is giving it's nutrient and calorie dense, but it's something small, is
All.
also okay. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Some good information out there for all our viewers. Uh, you said basically, the digestive system kind of slows down with the sunset. What we've seen, as per what's written even in old literature. So,
Yeah.
do you recommend that diet of the breakfast being the heaviest, followed by lunch being okay, and the night being on a light meal? But my question out here is, a lot of people are struggling in terms of time management in a city like Mumbai, and everyone gets back from work about in the evening, and then they go for the workout, and then to have a light meal is just not enough, and you're still feeling hungry. So what
Correct.
is your take on that?
You need to set your routine right. One is you have to put a deadline for yourself and, work your schedule around it. You need
Yeah,
to start carrying meals if the need be, because Bombay life is crazy and that's actually not the way it should be.
yeah,
But because the city is like that, we at times are left with no options. So,
yeah,
I always recommend if you can't carry your dinner or the main meal, you carry a good heavy snack which you can consume anytime between the 5 and 7 window. Anyways, that time is the time when everyone tends to get very hungry and is
hungry.
nibbling on all kinds of wrong
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
So you have a heavy snack at that time, okay? And
yeah,
then automatically your dinner can come in to be lighter. We
yeah,
generally tend to snack on something light at that time, and then the
yeah,
last heavy meal becomes your lunch. So by dinner, you're ravenously
yeah,
hungry and you can't say no to food anymore. And
yeah,
then you gobble down a lot of food and it's late already, right?
yeah.
So a
So,
good heavy
we
snack.
have one of the viewers saying his name is Jayant, and he's like, dinner was usually the only meal that is something substantial that they look forward to because of the crazy work schedule that they have. And that's why my question was that dinner then tends to be the most heaviest meal before you're going to bed. So is there any kind of a solution that you could help with these people who have this crazy lifestyle, or even for those people who are working in night shifts? It all goes topsy turvy there. So I mean, what do you suggest for them?
Sorry, there was some technical issue and I could not hear most of the
So
question except for the graveyard shift bit. Could you
yeah,
please repeat that?
yeah, basically the meals that the families have together. It's tend to be heavy like on the table, and with these guys working late hours and coming home, you're sitting on the dinner table. So you tend to have a very heavy meal together. It's like more of social, bonding with the family when you're back.
Yes.
So how can one have a hack against this, or is there a solution for this?
Yeah, actually, you just need to have a lighter meal and start enjoying other things rather than that meal. Maybe people can start enjoying, as you said, a cup of green tea post dinner rather than enjoying the meal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's about
yeah,
spending time together, right? So you enjoy a cup of, and let the kids have maybe a curd or maybe some small bits of salad put together instead of having an entire meal, because
yeah,
their meal would have probably be they would have eaten by 7 if the parents are coming in too late because they're packed off, they have school to go to. But the kind of food that's put on the dinner table needs to change. It depends upon what time you're having. If you're having your dinners by 8, it can be your traditional Indian food, which is absolutely okay. Dal, sabji, roti, chawal. But then if you're having that meal at 11 p.m. at night, which some people actually do, then
yeah,
you need to really reconsider what's been laid on that table. And for the people who are on graveyard shift, ideally
yeah.
it's not meant to be. This is just now how our urbanization and the life has led us to be. It's very unfortunate, but they have to eat because otherwise how will they work? But again, there the choice of food needs to change because those people who are working on graveyard shift, I feel they eat a lot of packaged food. They eat a lot
Yeah,
of takeaways. They eat a lot of
yeah,
stuff that they, get in their canteen. So they need to start carrying some home cooked meals. And if they know that they're going to be sleeping, say
yeah,
at 7 a.m. because they finish their shift at 5 a.m. in the morning, then
yeah.
their dinner needs to be light. They can't be eating a heavy meal and then going to sleep 2 hours later. So
Correct.
they need to look into their habits. A lot of people who are working in the graveyard shift have come to me, and I've seen a whole lot of deficiencies and hormonal imbalances, gastric issues, and weight issues because of the timings and the weight and the kind of food that they eat.
True, true. I mean, one has to make their own schedule and kind of work around it if you
Yes,
value your health so much. I mean, there's no shortcut. It's
that's
a
it.
holistic approach that one needs to take around it. Next question was around detoxing. So, do you think that there once in a while one needs to go in for this kind of a cleanse? Like with detoxing or juicing. What is your take? And juicing versus blending, because blending always retains the fiber. So my one question is on detoxing. Is it really essential once a while? You really do your cleansing. I forgot the name of the procedure. I'm not getting it. But
Colon
like
cleanse.
colon cleanse, a complete cleansing. And then the second part of the question was between juicing and blending.
So, see, detox is, looking at the way we abuse our bodies in
Yeah.
today's world. Then a lot of people may require detox, but you shouldn't do it too often. It loses its essence. And if you're by and large including a lot of water and a lot of vegetables in your day-to-day food and eating, your superfoods, which are commonly available in our kitchen, that's your ginger, onion, turmeric, your herbs, then you may not require the detox as often. But if you've been eating a lot of outside food, a lot of meat, a lot of tea, coffee, drinking less water, then yes, you may require that detox. Colon cleanse is good, but again, you need to, not everybody needs it. We often underestimate the power of sleep and a good amount of day-to-day hydration. If you're doing that well, and your stomach will tell you, your
Yeah.
bowels will tell you whether you need it or not. If you're facing issues, then yes, maybe you need it, but it's not necessary that each and every one of us will require. In terms of blending and juicing, I feel blending is better because your typical old juicers, they only give you a very liquidy thing, retaining a lot of fiber behind. But
Yeah.
at the same time, when you're doing blending, you need to be very careful about a few things. You shouldn't be, you use a blender that has got a very high RPM, something like your NutriBullet.
Yeah, NutriBullet, yes. Yeah.
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 The other bit is when you blend, you don't leave it on for too long because the blades get heated, and again you're losing the nutrients. That is why these days the new trend of the cold press juicers have come in. Yeah.
Correct.
And
Correct.
two, you need to ensure that when you blend, then the texture is quite smooth and it's not fibrous, because otherwise it becomes it's not very palatable to have it. So you blend it and pass it to a thick sieve if required. But if you have a typical juicer which retains most of your fiber and is giving you only liquid, then blending with the given instructions is better.
Okay. One of our viewers, Nidhi, is asking, should we eat should we eat every 2 hours? Should we eat every 4 hours? Or we should just stick to 3 meals and two individual side meals? I mean, what is your take on
See,
that?
I recommend eating every, not too often. So minimum 2 hour gap is required. You need to give your digestive system a break,
Yeah.
right? That is
Yeah.
why even the intermittent fasting. Why does intermittent fasting really work? Because it gives a digestive rest to your body, and when that happens, all your organs are actually get the healing time. Otherwise, all the attention is forever given to the digestive system because it's working all the time. So a minimum 2 hour gap between your meal and a maximum 3 to 4 hour gap between the meals is advisable, because that will prevent your sugar and insulin spikes,
Yeah.
and you won't tend to overeat in the next meal. But having said that, some people just don't feel hungry. So what goes in those small meals is something that needs to be individualized. And if you're just not hungry, then it is something that is meant for you. But something like 5-6 hour gap, not recommended. About eating every 3 hours is ideal, because that will prevent overeating and will prevent spikes in the sugars as well.
Okay. There's another question on cold pressed oil. Should cold pressed oils form a part of daily diet? And a follow-up question also was on that, is coconut oil?
Oil for thyroid.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, more than the cold press oil is, again, it's a procedure how you source your oil, and it retains a little more nutrients than your the oils that are processed the other way. But
Yeah.
more than the cold pressed oil, look whether your oil is refined or non-refined. That's a bigger one than the cold pressed or not, because most of us are having the typical refined oil, and you should ideally be consuming non-refined oil. Go back to what's your origin, whether it's mustard oil, till oil, coconut oil. Yeah, so those are the non-refined groundnut oil.
Down.
So you have non-refined oils with some amount of ghee and butter, and that ideally is a good combination to have. Over and above that, if your oils are cold pressed, yes, better, because they retain a little more of the nutrients and the fat soluble vitamins that they contain. Coconut oil, good for thyroid cure. Well, virgin coconut oil is known to be very nourishing for your thyroid gland. So if you have coconut oil, the reason why it's good is also because it's got a mix of MCT, medium chain triglycerides, in them. So either you take a medium chain triglyceride oil or a coconut oil, little quantity in the morning. Yes, it is nourishing for your thyroid.
Excellent, excellent. And now there was a question which was put forward, from one of our group circles, which was really, I think the unanimous question was, in today's time and during lockdown, people are either glued on to the series on Netflix or Amazon, and the next thing that they're thinking about is eating. So how do you avoid this gluttony and binge eating that comes in, that craving? So is there any kind of a solution or a hack one can, do that? Are you really hungry, or you're just bored, or you're actually thirsty? I mean, what can one do to kind of keep these cravings in check?
So one of the biggest mistakes that people are committing in lockdown is their entire routine has changed, because they don't have to travel to work.
Yeah.
They're all sleeping late and they're waking up late.
Yes.
Because they're sleeping late, they're watching Netflix. So guys, get back to a routine. Start waking up early, which will force you to sleep in time, which will force you not to watch the Netflix. And by default, your binge eating will stop. The second thing is, if you've eaten a proper meal at 8, and if you sleep at 12 or 1, you don't need food. You will need food at 2 a.m. because you're awake at that hour. And of course, you're hungry because, by then 5 hours have gone by. But if it's just been 2 or 3 hours post meal, then it's just a habit. And that habit, by now, because we are 4 months into lockdown, has become an addiction. So whether you're hungry or not, you are going to reach out for food, because you've been doing that every day for the past few weeks, right? So you need to break that chain. Have green tea instead. Brush your teeth. That's the trick. Brush your teeth after you're done with your dinner. So psychologically, you have that flavor in your mouth, and your mind says, okay, you've brushed your teeth, and so you're not supposed to be eating food anymore. So do that. And also, eat a proper meal. So don't eat a light dinner and then get hungry at 2 a.m. and again start eating all over again. So that's the wrong thing to do. A lot of time we replace thirst for hunger. So you might actually be thirsty, but you feel that you're hungry. So first have water, and then you will realize that you may not really be needing that extra food. But ask yourself, are you really hungry? Are you addicted to food? Do you really need a certain kind of food? So if you're really hungry, go for an apple. But then if your mind is saying, "Chi, apple kaun khayega ye time pe," and you are looking for those chips and nuts, then it's not hunger. It's only a craving for a certain kind of food. Because if you're really hungry, you will say yes to that apple. But if you're saying no to the apple and yes to the chips, you know what it is, and you need to stop that.
So I think we've covered a lot and some amazing topics for discussion, and just wanted to end with, and it's an important thing, and I've been getting it from a lot of parents, and they told me to ask you. with these crazy schedules or the new routine that has been set in because of the lockdown, now for kids, it's been challenging for the parents. How do you kind of inculcate a routine for nutrition for the kids, to start off with? I mean, what do you suggest?
So I did cover this with on my one of my Insta posts as well, initially during the lockdown. I think I
Yeah.
covered 5 points. One with kids, because they are not going out and we feeling bad for them, we are letting them have a lot more sugar. We are baking a lot more. We are cooking a lot more fancy food at home. So do that, but keep a check on how much sugar they are really taking in, because you may be overdoing that with them. So
Yeah.
one is make sure that. Two, because they're home, they're not doing any too much of physical activity. By default, they're not having enough water. So ensure that your kids are consuming a whole lot
Yeah.
of water. This is
Yeah.
a great time to inculcate two habits which most of the kids don't have. One is eating at least one fruit a day, and the second one is, when you wake up in the morning, from now on, get the kids to have a glass of water and ensure that they have a bowel routine in place, because most of the other times they are rushing to school and everything is off. So ensure that is happening. To ensure that physical activity is happening, because otherwise, because the area is so restricted now, they're not going
Yeah.
out. You still need
Yeah.
to make sure, as a drill, as a regime, 45 minutes to 1 hour of good workout is being done by them. And
True.
five is, get them to read, get them to create something. This is a good time where you can get them to do whether it's a newspaper, old
Yeah.
magazine, any kind of old literature. Pick it up and get them to read and create some good fun games with them. So
Yeah.
get your kids to do this during this time. It's really, really important. Check on their sugar intake also. Check they're not eating too often, because aate jate, because they are at home,
Yeah.
whatever they find, they're just popping in,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So they find
I
brownie,
can
they'll
relate
put
to
it
that.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of food going in. You have to regiment their meals. So ensure they are not overeating, they're not eating too frequently, and balanced good home food. Don't overbake, don't overcook, don't make too many fancy meals. Just about twice a week is good enough, and they'll enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of an amazing session, Kamna. Thank you so much for answering these variety of questions. It's been so insightful. And if somebody needs to connect with you personally on a program or on a lifestyle change diet, I will definitely ask them to get in touch with you. Thank you once again for being part of Soul to Soul sessions with AB, and have an awesome Sunday.
Thank you, Amit. It's been a pleasure doing this with you, and I hope I've been able to give some insights that will help the audience here. Thank you so much, people.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a good
Thank you.
weekend. Stay safe.
Thank you.